All right, now I get to the official lecture. And this, by the way, will be the last lecture. Hopefully, if we can get through everything, and I think we will. Talking about the Latinx population in the United States currently, as well as what we're foreseeing for the future. This is not my family or even a family I know, just I think a good diverse picture of mixed Latino families, which Latinos, by the way, are one of the groups that intermix the most with other racial groups and backgrounds. This is kind of a quick, just kind of a recollection of some of the Latino accomplishments of contributions by Latinos to the United States, from the first European permanent settlement in what becomes the United States in Florida, to Latinos fighting in every US war since the War of Independence, to earning a disproportionate number of Congressional Medals of Honor during World War II. And then a few things, the last 3 bullet points are things we haven't talked about in the class. You know, like having the first US-born Latino astronaut, Sidney Gutierrez, back in '91. The prevalence and popularity of Latino food and music, where tortillas now outsell bread, where salsa now outsells ketchup, and where there's a lot of different types of foods that are so prevalent we don't even think of them as being of Latino origin. Like I'm thinking of maybe like nachos at ballparks, or even some hidden histories like the Caesar salad was invented in Tijuana, in Mexico, by an Italian family, but in Mexico. So not actually from Italy, even though we associate it with Italian food. Music, in particular reggaeton, being very popular the last 25 years in the United States and worldwide. And the first and only Latina Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor. How about the Latinx population in the US today? Based on 2020 numbers, there were 62 million, making up 19% of the US population. So, almost 1 in 5 people. The largest racialized minority group in the United States for over 20 years. So when we identify as a predominantly Black and white country, that identity is an outdated identity, because there's more Latinos than there are African Americans. And so it's a huge percentage of the population that is not reflected when we think of who the US is. Latinos in the US, about 2/3 or almost 2/3 are of Mexican background, 10% Puerto Rican, 4% Salvadoran, 4% Cuban, 20% other, or all the other, of all other Latin American backgrounds. And yes, predominantly or historically in the Southwest, but increasingly elsewhere. Yeah, Joseph.
Even though it's only been like 4 or 5 years, how much do you think that has changed? Do you think that's stayed the same or grown?
It's grown. Yeah.
The population, but obviously with the percentage, do you think that?
Oh yeah, they're growing at a much higher percentage than the general population. Absolutely. Yeah. The Latinx population is also demographically younger. They make up 25% of the children in elementary schools today. 1 in 4. The median age of Latinos is 30, whereas for Anglo-Americans, it's 44. That's based on 2019 numbers. And since 2010, the growth among the Latino population is more so from birth rates than it is from immigration. So cutting down on immigration is not putting a stop to the Latino growth rate. The most common age for white Americans is 58. The one most common age for Latinos is 11. So much younger population. This has implications for lots of things. From like, yes, you know, it costs money to educate young people, but that's nothing new. The fact that they're younger also means that they're more likely to be at an age where they're working and paying taxes and contributing to Social Security, as opposed to the rest of the population, which is baby boomer heavy, and are you know, sort of an older demographic that is collecting their Social Security and no longer paying into it. Wisconsin, Latinos make up 7.6% of the Wisconsin population based in 2020. They've been the largest minority in Wisconsin since 2020. And as we learned in the Latino Wisconsin documentary, Latinos make up 80%, or immigrants, predominantly Latino immigrants, make up 80% of the Wisconsin dairy labor. And let's see, this is just a picture of picture of a march. And so going from Wisconsin specifically to Eau Claire County, in the year 2000, Latinos were 1%. 10 years later, 2%. 3 years later, 3%. And that growth rate is a 50% growth rate, as opposed to a 7% growth rate for other groups in Eau Claire County. Trempealeau County, just south of us. They had, again, big growth, 600% growth in the first decade of the 2000s. More recently, in 2020, they made up 9% of the population in Trempealeau County. Places like Arcadia, Independence, and Whitehall. This is a table looking at, they call them in this, they call them Hispanic elected officials. And this is simply showing that in the year 2017, there were 6,600 Hispanic elected officials. 377 of them were at the federal and state level. And so I know this is a big, complicated table with lots of information, but those 4 numbers that are highlighted are the ones I want you to know. 6,600 nationwide, 377 at the federal and state level. There were 4 senators and 34 US representatives. And what about the future?
He wants to know what the exam.
Yes, that's right.
Go back.
Sure. There's 6,600 Hispanic elected officials, 377 at the federal and state level. Then there were 4 US senators and 34 US representatives. But of the whole table, those are the 4 numbers that can be on the test. No, thank you for asking. The future. Latinos are projected to become almost 1/3, 29% of the US population by the middle of the century. And so I say here that Latino success equals US success, not because the US in some way can't have success without specifically, making sure that Latinos succeed. The point is that Latinos are not a tiny percentage of the US population, that they're a significant, important segment of the US population. And so if they succeed, that is a reflection of the US succeeding, not it is not a group that can be ignored or that should be ignored. Without Latinos, the 18 to 49 age demographic would decline over the next decade, which would be a disaster for funding of Social Security, Medicare, and national infrastructure investments, as well as for filling the future job market. So this has to do with the idea that there's lots of first world countries that are actually experiencing a population decline. And capitalism requires growth. And having a population decline does not help the economy. Then the other factor is, so having younger population that is working, that's part of the reason that Social Security worked when it was created, or the first few decades, is because you had a large demographic of, say, baby boomers that were working, paying for the Social Security of the people who were older. But now we have that baby boom at the time where it's their turn to collect. And if we don't have enough people at younger ages working and paying into it, then the system doesn't work. There's also this short video that I like using. It's a little dated, but I think the idea still stands.